New online knowledge platforms and portals on climate issues are being launched almost every week. The web can be a great way to share information, build communities, raise your profile, and stimulate debate. It's a key tool for climate knowledge brokers alongside other communication approaches. But not every climate knowledge platform is successful. Far too often, platforms are set up with a big burst of enthusiasm. Then a year later, no new content has been added, and traffic is at a standstill. You could call these zombie websites. So how do you ensure your platform thrives and creates engaging content that users will come back to time after time? Here's a checklist of 9 issues you need to think about at the planning stage. This is before you dive in and start choosing IT systems or commissioning web designers. We're talking here especially about ambitious online platforms with a lot of content and big plans. But much of this advice applies equally to simple websites. Now, some of these points are pretty obvious, but they still often get forgotten. First up is being clear on your objectives. This should be a starting point. So why is your platform needed? Is it to share latest knowledge on lessons learned? Or maybe to provide a repository of research reports or project information? Do you want to support a network of practitioners or stimulate a debate? Or maybe you have other aims. You need to ask, what is the most important objective for you? It really helps to prioritize. And is an online knowledge platform the best way of achieving them? Could you achieve your aims better through more traditional routes? For example, face-to-face meetings, or producing print documents, or working with the media. The point is that setting up an online knowledge platform is not always the best solution, so think hard before you commit to it. Next is to identify a distinctive niche. How will your platform be different? The internet is a very crowded information marketplace. A successful platform needs to be doing something which is different from others, something that adds value. So do some research early on to map out the online landscape. What websites and platforms are already covering your topic, both in your country and internationally? This will avoid duplication. It will also identify potential collaborators, other knowledge producers that you could share experience and ideas with, and maybe exchange content. Narrowing down your audience is the third point on the checklist. It's very easy to come up with a long list of target audiences for a knowledge platform. Policymakers, parliamentarians, aid agencies, researchers maybe, students, civil society, don't forget business, the media, and so on. A common mistake is to try and reach everyone, and in the process fail to reach anyone very effectively. While it's true that all kinds of people do need climate information, audiences have quite different needs and require different approaches to engage them. So my advice is to prioritize 1 or 2 audiences and optimize your platform around them, at least initially. You can always diversify later. The fourth point. Once you've identified your audience, you need to really get to know them so you can understand what's going to make your platform appeal to them and what's going to put them off. You need to ask questions like, what kind of climate information do they need? When and for what? Where are they getting it from now? And what are they struggling to find? How much time do they have to search for things and then read them? What languages are they comfortable with? And how much technical jargon can they handle? And also, how easy is it for them to access the internet? Are they doing it from the office or at home? On a computer, a tablet or a smartphone? It's best to ask these questions face to face so you can understand the realities of user needs and the frustrations they face. You will often get a much more honest picture this way than through an online survey. Let's move on to content. The expression "content is king" is not new, but it still has a lot of truth to it. The quality of the content on your platform will be the biggest factor that draws people back and keeps them interested. This means you need a strategy for generating that content. ensuring it's presented in the right way for your audience, and for keeping it up to date. Quite a few sites start off with the assumption that partners and users will voluntarily upload content, so content will take care of itself. But in my experience, this is highly optimistic. While there are cases where it works, Wikipedia is the example often cited, they're pretty rare. It takes dedication and hard work to generate consistent, good content. So the big message is, don't underestimate what's involved. Now, there's different ways of doing this, of course. It can be organised centrally with a core editorial team that's responsible for seeking out new material, commissioning it, or writing it themselves. Or you can decentralise this role and have people in different partner organisations share the task. There may also be scope for pulling in content automatically from other websites using the new generation of data sharing tools. But one thing's for sure, good content doesn't create itself. You'll need incentives in place so people find time to do it, quality control systems so it's up to standard, and planning and follow-up mechanisms to ensure the pipeline keeps flowing. Point 6 is about creating online communities. Now, a lot of initiatives hope to do this as a way of sharing information and getting buy-in. But in my experience, really effective online communities are rare creatures. They certainly don't emerge spontaneously just because an online tool has been made available, even if it's a very user-friendly one. People are often just too busy to engage, especially the people you're most trying to reach. If this is a priority for you, it's good to get advice from people who've been successful in this before or are part of active online communities themselves. Here's some tips that I've learnt on how to encourage people to engage. Setting a time limit on online debates can help. For example, a 2-week dialogue around a topic in the run-up to a conference. Get some well-known figures involved so you can guarantee some really thought-provoking contributions. And combining online discussions with face-to-face meetings. However you do it, you need to ensure really good facilitation. And also be careful of cultural and language barriers, as these can get in the way for some people and inhibit their participation. The next point is around staffing. Behind every successful knowledge platform is a team of people. There's a range of skills required: editing, design, IT, subject knowledge, marketing, management. Now, not all of these have to be in-house positions, of course, or full-time ones. Some can be shared, but they're all needed. It's useful to compare running a knowledge platform with publishing a magazine. So don't underestimate what's involved and assume it can be done by a couple of people in their spare time. The 8th point on the checklist is about governance arrangements. Running a knowledge platform involves lots of decisions, both large and small. So having clear governance arrangements is an important success factor. An example of a micro decision might be, is this blog post written clearly enough to be understood by our target audience? A bigger decision might be on what hot topics to focus on this year. Somehow these decisions need to be made, and if the mechanisms are vague or overcomplicated, with multiple committees to negotiate, this can really slow you down and soak up all the energy of the editorial team. For your platform to keep up a regular flow of content, you need to agree an editorial policy and put in place procedures for signing off on different kinds of decisions. The more day-to-day decisions that can be delegated to the editorial team, the better, and the easier it is to keep the platform up to date. The final point is about creating a sustainable business model. This is the Achilles heel for many platforms. A knowledge platform needs an injection of resources to get it off the ground, then continued funding to keep it going and developing over time. All too often, though, platforms are set up with seed funding which runs out soon after the platform is launched. This is why there are so many zombie websites walking the online landscape. Creating a sustainable business model is one of the hardest things to do, so focusing on this at the outset is vital. There are a number of funding models to consider, which all have their own strengths and weaknesses. Grant funding is the most common. The longer the grant period, the easier it is to plan and manage the platform. 3 to 5 year funding cycle is ideal. The big challenge is ensuring continuity when the grant comes to an end. Building a consortium of funders helps, so you're not so vulnerable when one of them drops out. It's also good to get close to your funders and bring them with you on the journey, so they become advocates as well as financial supporters. And you need to be able to demonstrate the value it's adding, so when the grant comes around for renewal, you have some solid evidence to put on the table. There are also other, more commercial models you can think about. Sponsorship is one option, getting companies or agencies to sponsor the platform in exchange for some brand exposure. The key thing here is to ensure there are no unhelpful strings attached or any risk of undermining the platform's impact or reputation. Advertising is another route, with similar complications. And some sites work on a subscription basis. You can only access material if you pay a subscription. This is how many professional societies work. The problem is, it excludes potential users who are not ready to join. Finding a path that works for you is tricky, and there is certainly need for innovation here. Remember, it's important to develop your business strategy early on. Think ahead, so you don't get faced by an unexpected funding crunch further down the line. Some final thoughts. There's a lot of things to think about in setting up a successful climate knowledge platform. I hope these suggestions will set you off on the right track rather than putting you off. The Climate Knowledge Brokers Group has a lot of experience to share, so do engage with us. Come along to our workshops and help us learn together how to do this job better.